The last morning of the conferences, I just a couple of quick things quickly before I introduce the second thing I'll remind is that as we have the presentations, we ask you to hold your questions, and when all the speakers of the morning are finished, we're going to have just a little, if you're looking intently at your program, we're going to change the speaker order just a little bit this morning. And we're going to ask our speakers who were scheduled second to go first. And we have three presenters for our first paper of the morning. They are Dr. Robert Cherinka, Mr. Paul Wahnish, and Engineer Joseph Prezzama. Dr. Cherinka is a Senior Principal Information Systems Engineer for MITRE Corporation, located in Tampa, Florida. His expertise is in software and process engineering with a focus toward XML-based web service and agile development technologies. He earned a PhD and a Master of Science in Computer Sciences from Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia, leading research in static analysis and testing techniques for component-based systems. And in addition, he earned his BS in Computer Sciences in 1987 from the University of Pittsburgh. Mr. Wahnish is the president and founder of CTEF, the Career Technical Education Foundation, Inc., and is a member of SAE-ASME. He received his political science bachelor's degree from the University of South Florida and then attended Stetson College of Law. He started several engineering companies, including Wahnish Consulting, Inc., and Metro Automotive Marine Associates Incorporated. He's traveled the globe as an entrepreneurial owner of several businesses, and during that time it became apparent to him that the structure of education in the U.S. was not preparing today's students to fill the workforce needs of tomorrow. So in 2001 he sold one of his companies and began a new career as a professional educator. In 2008 he received a he received a state of Florida certification in social studies and technology education, and recently served as a department chair at the Academy of Engineering at East Lake High School. He's grown the school from 22 students at its inception 7 years ago to 600 students, and in 2008 the Academy achieved the Center of Excellence from Pinellas County and was recognized by Project Lead the Way as one of the top 10 best engineering academies in the United States. Mr. Prezzama is a lead communications engineer and task leader at MITRE Corporation, located in Tampa. He leads the MITRE work program in support of the Chief Information Officer for a Department of Defense customer. His expertise is in the areas of tactical communications and strategic enterprise planning. In 1996, he earned his Master's of Science in Software Engineering from Monmouth University, Eatontown, New Jersey. Prior to that, he earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Electrical Engineering from Trenton State College in Ewing, New Jersey. And he is a member of and is published in AFCEA and is a senior member of the IEEE Communications Society. And I believe that Dr. Cherinka is first. And if you need, you need, okay.
Still booting. All right. Okay, great. I think we're good to go. So good morning. I'm Bob Cherinka. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you. We have an exciting talk for you hopefully this morning. Focused on a lot of activity and a big concern for us, and I'm sure many of you, which is fostering ways to enhance our science, technology, engineering, mathematics educational system. And we have a model that we've been employing of we're going to present to you today. But first, I just want to start with who was here on Wednesday for the kickoff? Great, great. And since Wednesday till today, who's actually seen Najib, Dr. Kalios? He's hard to get a hold of. And if you were here for the welcoming remarks, you heard Dr. Zinn talk about where is Najib. So being from the government, we figured it was a challenge, right? So we sent our crack team over the course of the last 2 days just trying to follow and track down Najib. So we thought we would just start today by showing you what we came across. So we actually did find him in several areas. First area was we found him in Universal Studios riding the Harry Potter ride. So then the team continued, and we're wondering, we found him over in Disney. Sure enough, he was on the teacups. Next, he made his way over to Animal Kingdom with his newfound friends. And then finally, he made it back over to Hollywood Studios and found a new gang to hang out with. So we thought if this answers all of the questions, where is Najib? So if you're wondering where he is, this is we have the clues. So without further ado,
Means I'll never have to answer that question again.
exactly. So we have the proof. Yes. Okay. So Najib, you weren't here. We were looking for you. So after Wednesday's challenge of where are you, we thought we sent our crack team looking for you. So where in the world are you? We spotted you at Harry Potter, riding the Harry Potter ride. And then we saw you at the Magic Kingdom on the teacups. And then you made your way to Animal Kingdom for your new friends. And then finally you ended up in Hollywood Studios. So anyway, hopefully this is your new family portrait. So with that, all serious, kidding aside, we have a really important topic to talk to you today, and the three of us are going to set the stage. Joe is going to come up here in a second. He'll tell you a little bit about the motivation why we're doing this. Mr. Wahnish, the president of the Career Technical Education Foundation, will talk to you about a dual system of education. And then finally, I'm going to share with you an industry perspective of what industry can do to help promote STEM. Joe?
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. As Bob mentioned, the talk is going to be on building partnerships associated with the STEM. Today more than ever, students are struggling to make strategic decisions about their future. Students are finding it harder and harder to graduate with real-world skills to help them succeed. They have an interest and drive. What they need is foundation and motivation. Too often, students take the easy route while trying to make a little money to get through school and to move ahead. But with a little bit of motivation and some strategic partnerships, students can focus their summer job energy into true STEM experiences. To give you a little bit of background on where we come from, Bob and I work for the MITRE Corporation, a federally funded research and development corporation chartered to work in the public interest. Paul is the president of the CTEF, the Center for Technical Education Foundation. It's a nonprofit organization dedicated to increase the influence of STEM through partnerships between industry, academia, and the community. There's a growing concern today regarding the declining state of education in college enrollment and student performance in the areas of science, technology, engineering, and math. Since 1992, there's been a greater than 10% drop in STEM enrollment. In the last 40 or so years, U.S. doctoral degrees in STEM have dropped by 25%, while non-U.S. doctoral degrees have increased by 25%. In 2011, the college readiness benchmarks indicated that less than 45% of high school seniors were ready for college in the areas of science and math. In 2009, American teenagers ranked 23rd in science and 31st in math in the world. This chart shows that there is potentially a deficiency in degreed teachers in STEM disciplines. If that's true, how can we expect to teach, let alone motivate students, when their instructors may not be qualified in the subject areas they're teaching in? It's become evident that STEM education is important to everyone. It's important to educators to have a stake ensuring that they provide a quality education. Industry reaps the rewards of a solid STEM curriculum by hiring fresh new talent. Changing it up a little bit, now we're going to talk about the actual need for qualified people in the work environment. It's projected that by 2018, the total U.S. employment will grow by 10.1%. But in the areas of STEM, it's expected to grow by 16.8%. So that's about 6.8% greater than the national average. That's happening in parallel with a tangible decline in STEM education and scholastic performance. So how do we prepare for that challenge? We believe that it's all about motivation. Today's students' biggest challenge is motivation to excel. They're constantly bombarded by distractions like YouTube and video games. The complexity of today's everyday tools is masked by the need to make everything easy to use. Kids are fooled by this hidden complexity. My own kids play with iPads. They think they're fun. They think they're easy. My oldest one wants to be a software programmer because he likes his iPad, but he doesn't realize about the complexity behind programming an iPad. So he's going to be in a world of hurt when he really finds out how hard it's going to be. Schools must start to expose students to hands-on experiences to help them bridge the gap between theory and reality. So the goal is to motivate through these aha moments. Students must be urged to apply the theory that they've learned. On-the-job experience is an imperative to help them be competitive in the real world. This can be achieved through the development of industry and academic partnerships where both sides take responsibility for student success. Our approach is to help create a dual system of education, one where industry and academia partner to foster success of all the students. To do this, we'll be presenting a sustainable model for developing and nurturing these partnerships. So at this point, I'd like to hand the presentation over to Mr. Paul Wahnish, President of CTEF.
Well, good morning. Is anyone out there? Good morning. Ah, there you are. Okay. This dual system of education basically came about as I traveled around the world for 27 years in developing an engineering company that I sold. And when I did have the opportunity to come back into the real world and kind of be with my kids, I got involved in education. And it was very easy to determine in education that we had some needs in the world of education. And one of those needs was to create a career academy. And when we started the first career academy, we started with 22 kids. There's now 600 in that same school after the 8 years that we've been involved in it. And what we wanted to do was not only have students understand the theory, but also understand the practical knowledge that's involved in the real world. Too many times I talk to business and industry who say, we really don't have time to train students who are coming out of college, post-secondary education as engineers. We don't have time to train them. They're not getting any practical opportunities in school. So we felt like we had to start a program, and we're going to kind of give you a quick synopsis of it, and then we'll talk later. Hopefully some of you will be there this afternoon for our session. But the idea here, pardon me, is to give students some firsthand ability to look at high-skilled, high-waged opportunities beginning in the 8th grade. So business and industry has gotten involved with us in this process. We felt like in order for us to make this program work, we could not go to the school districts. School districts are stressed already as far as funding is concerned. So we went to business and industry and said, look, this is your community. You need to be a part of what's taking place in education in your community. And the impact will be tremendous. And we're going to talk a little bit about this. When you look at this particular slide, you notice in the yellow it says teacher knowledge, skills, and attitudes. And we found that the person who's in the classroom, and I've been in the classroom myself professionally as an educator now for 10 years, and I've taught at the college level as well during the summer. But high school kids are at a point at 9th grade where they're really starting to make decisions. And we find that at 8th grade, 7th grade, we're going to start trying to channel those decisions so that if we know what their interests are, we can provide them an opportunity for education, much as, and if you've traveled to Germany or Austria, you understand this dual system of education working with business and industry. We found that having a teacher in place that is integrating STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math into the instructional material is a very important thing. One of the biggest things we found to make a difference with the tests, everybody wants to see what the results are with ACT, SAT. If you're from Florida, you have FCAT. So what we found that made a huge difference, and these aren't special students, these aren't all gifted students. We started out with 22 general population students, and it's a lottery for them to get in. Now, there's 600, as I said. But what made it interesting is that we integrated core curriculum into the engineering curriculum and vice versa, so that when the student, as one of the previous slides mentioned, when the student was in the classroom, he or she would have that aha moment. And what we tried to do is we tried to generate that aha moment around core subject areas, the English, the science, the math, so that when the student had the opportunity to hear it twice within a 4-week time frame. We felt like if we could do 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after. So we designed all of the curriculum around that idea. And conceptually, it's worked amazing. The difference in the test scores has been unbelievable, because not only are they getting to hear it, but now they're also integrating that into a project-based opportunity. The dual system of education is, I went the wrong way, didn't I? Yes, I did. See, I get so excited about this stuff. Rigor, everybody has heard rigor and relevance, and those are buzzwords in the educational environment today. And when you talk to most educators, they're sort of siloed into believing that what they're doing is the right thing. CTEF, the foundation that my wife and I started when I sold one of my companies, basically has taken the opportunity to hold 3 STEM summits over the last 4 years. And we had a focus group at the first year that we brought 16 business and industry people into a classroom, into a big room, and said, you know, let's spend the day talking about what you're really needing in the environment that we live in. What kind of student do you need us to produce? And then the second year that we did it, we brought in not only business and industry, but we brought in community leaders, government folks from Tallahassee. We brought in other people that were interested in secondary education and post-secondary education. And we began what we called the gap analysis to try to determine what and where those gaps were in education. And it was amazingly hard for educators to sit in the same room with business and industry and talk about what was missing in education. Very, very interesting process. Our idea was to raise both the ceiling and the floor of education, and the end result of that, of course, is to impact the community. This kind of gives you a quick breakdown of what the Career Academy actually looks like. And when we look at elementary school, middle school, high school, it goes from traditional to foundational technical skills. In a Career Academy feeder program, we're also going to add some occupationally specific skills so that we're giving the students an opportunity to start thinking about what they might want to do in the middle school. And quite frankly, third grade is a very pivotal time from an educational standpoint. You can look at test scores between third grade and seventh grade, and you'll watch the scores start going the opposite direction that we would like to see. And so in a career academy, we want them to understand what careers are, what industry certifications are, and as the academies that we have set up today, not just the one that we started 8 years ago, but in all the academies that we're involved in, students are getting certifications in high school that are meaningful to industry. So it's a very important opportunity for them. We talked about rigor, relevance, and relationships, and obviously these are major areas that, you know, you hear that are happening all over the place with education. The biggest thing in here that I think when it comes to rigor, relevance, and relationships is student-centric. And what that means is that the students get to decide. They're engaged in planning their career. They gain the career experience that they need by doing hands-on. We have a program with Kelly Services on a national scale, and we'll talk about it more later this afternoon. But what it does, it gives students an opportunity in their rising junior year when they turn 16 to go to work in the job they think they want to do, so that by the time they get to college, they've already put in a couple of years of work in the area, because now they have what we call or term a career mentorship, what you might think of as an internship. And again, we'll talk more about that later. Integrated curriculum, I've talked about that. To me, that's the key to running a good career educational opportunity, not only having the quality program and creative environment, putting the best teacher in front of the class that you possibly can, but certainly having this integrated curriculum is important. Industry financial support. We literally go into the communities, we raise funds for education because the work, not just because of the work experience, but also because we want to give these students the best that we could possibly give them. And who's the recipient of the students that we develop? The community is. And we'll talk about the economic impact this afternoon that this has. I'm going to turn it back over to Bob. Thank you. Hope to see you this afternoon.
So that gives you a little insight about the model that we're trying to put in place and instantiate across the U.S. In particular. So let me tell you a little bit more and expand on the role of industry. That's, you saw Paul leave off and stress the importance of this as the industry being a key partner in this relationship. And so Meyer is a nonprofit organization that is our whole fundamental foundation is built on STEM. We are constantly on the lookout for the next scientist, the technologist, the engineer, the mathematician, right? Because our charter is to look at the hard problems facing the globe and try to address them. And so we need very smart people to help shape the future. And so it's very important for us. We hire typically 200 to 300 interns every year. And the value of bringing in the interns to work into the workforce and get those aha moments is so critical, and we see that success every year. So to us, there's really three areas that we consider are key to building a vibrant role for industry in this STEM outreach program. And that is, one, having a very vibrant STEM outreach program, being out there, engaged at all levels of education and in the community. Second, we're providing jobs, providing real-world jobs and hands-on experience to students. And then finally, while they're working for you, not just give them a job to do, but also continuously stimulate them with extra supplemental career enhancing or professional activities. And so I'm going to talk about each of those areas. So from the outreach perspective, there's a lot of ways to get involved and run, and this is the case study of what we do at MITRE. So obviously, one important area is to be engaged where it matters, right? Where the decision makers are trying to shape the future of the educational system. So we continuously participate in forums that engage both the national and the state level government agencies. We bring them together to talk with educators and to bring industry in particular to raise awareness of what we feel is important in terms of those technology needs or those skill needs for the workforce. Another area is getting involved in the community. We help organizations like CTEF in shaping their strategic focus. And we get involved with the community organizations, the Museums of Sciences, for example. We've been involved in helping to go in and stand up what we'd call hacker spaces, right, or maker fairs. You've probably seen a lot about those. And building idea zones, judging competitions and science fairs. School outreach, that's another part of running a vibrant program, right? So industry days, Paul instituted formally in the school districts in Florida something known as industry days. You know, this is actually part of their curriculum. These are 10th graders in high school who come in and they have to research industries around that particular area. They pick they put their choice in for industries they'd like to visit. Paul puts them all in buses, and they go and tour those companies. Then they go back, and they have to do a study and write a report of what they learned. But while they're there, we're engaging them. We're putting them into hands-on experiences. So, again, this is at the 10th grade high school level. We get involved with initiatives like FIRST Robotics. It's very important for us to get out there and mentor and teach and to volunteer in terms of the competitions. Building educational programs. A great example is what we're doing right now in building an extensive, comprehensive cybersecurity education. That's the next set of problems, right, that we're seeing that our nation has to really address, and the world, really. It's everything we do comes back to some aspect of protecting our security assets and securing our assets. So having an educational system that gets the education down into the lowest levels, middle school on up, is very important. So initiatives like working with the Department of Education and organizations like CTEF to flesh out a formalized program that's aligned to industry standards, such as your CSSPs and the SSCPs, for example, and put that into place into high schools across the country. We run cyber challenges. We just ran our second annual event. It was very successful. We had over 53 college and high school teams participate in the cybersecurity competition. And the 7 teams, 5 top college teams and 2 top high school teams are now moving on to EC Council's Global Cyber Olympics competition, which will be starting here in a few weeks. This influencing teachers, you know, you saw the metric about the decline in the education of the teachers to teach the students. What better way but to employ the teachers over the summer and give them exposure to what industry sees as, you know, what's important in the workforce, so that they can go back to their classrooms and take that experience and help the students. But most importantly, it's about providing hands-on work experience. You know, and we do this through our internships and our co-ops. And our number one goal, obviously, is to promote and motivate. We would be thrilled if we can have a student continue to show an interest and be motivated to pursue a career in STEM no matter where they go. I mean, that's our number one goal. And we think by giving them real-world projects to work on, mentored by staff and professional engineers, so they can have those aha moments is critical. And obviously, for us, it's about a pipeline as well, right? Every industry would love to be able to groom talent that will become future employees for their company. So again, I mentioned, you know, across the board, MITRE typically brings in 200 to 300 interns a year every summer, and many of them, while they're still, when they go back to college semesters or they go back to high school semesters, they can, if they can, they continue some employment at some level. So when they're here, right, we put them on real projects, and here's a sampling. These are the projects that our interns, we have 28 interns in my department right now this summer working across 3 locations in Colorado, Virginia, and here in Florida. And they're working on real projects for sponsors. So, you know, what are they doing? Well, a group of students are working on mobile computing. They're building applications for iPhones, Androids, and the BlackBerry, the playbooks. Again, they're looking at cross-platform software development needs and challenges because our sponsors are being proliferated with different devices and the challenge of putting different devices in their enterprise. So our students are fleshing out, they're doing the studies, they're rapidly prototyping applications to give them ideas on how to actually do cross-platform development and what the challenges are and how to assess and port applications from one platform to the other. Cybersecurity, I mentioned that. Yes, we're running a cyber academy and we are running competitions, but there's an infrastructure, there are tools, there are challenges that have to be developed. We have students actually helping in that. A lot of our sponsors are very much interested in geospatial analysis, and so we have a group of students doing porting capabilities from one language to another and building new tools to do geospatial analysis and building front ends to that. Widgets are everywhere, right? Dashboards are everywhere. So important, and there's different types. A common open platform is called Ozone Widget Framework, and a lot of our sponsors are starting to use that. And so we're helping, the students are helping to build widgets. So they engage with the user, they talk to them, they understand what their needs are, and they're able to build and match together information sources and bring it to their dashboard so they can have timely information. And then at the bread and butter, we have the whole systems, enterprise systems engineering problem. Many of the activities that MITRE supports for our sponsors is, in fact, enterprise systems engineering. So, you know, this is an opportunity for students to understand how to do requirements gathering, how to do storyboarding with a sponsor to tease out pain points, and then take that and build architectural products and do design, and then ultimately go through the prototyping for risk reduction. Big data visualization, it's a huge problem, right? There's tons of information being collected, but how do you present that in ways that humans can understand more easily? So there's a lot of ways you can do that. An emerging technique is called tree mapping, and so a lot of our sponsors are interested in exploring those algorithms. So we have students taking algorithms that are published and developing those algorithms and integrating them into the tool sets and the web architectures of many of our sponsors. Again, that's just a small sampling, but my point there was to show you that, you know, it's important to not just make up a project and put them on the side, but take the student, whether it's a high school student or a college student, team them up with your staff, and they will learn. It's amazing how you can raise that bar. They do not know where the tough challenges are. That's the beauty of this, is they start tackling a problem, and your professional engineer may have been trying to tackle that for years, and there's a lot of hard parts there, but they bring a fresh innocence to that problem, and it's amazing what they can really do. But while they're with you, the other key piece here is to constantly supplement them and their activity so that they learn how to become and are motivated to stay in a STEM career. So we'll do things like give them a lot of training and boot camps. So we have access to the MITRE Institute. As soon as they become an intern, they get their badge, they have access to tons of self-paced study, training, or classroom settings. We do fireside chats where professional engineers will come in and at lunch we'll feed them. Students like to work for food, and they'll either take them on a tour to their sponsor's location on a military base, or they will sit down and tell them what they do and engage them in dialogue. It's important. We'll do field trips and camps. This is an example. 2 years ago we took the group to the Air Force Academy, and we had our interns working with the Air Force cadets for the summer, basically flying UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles. It was pretty exciting. We'll put them on group projects. So I mentioned for our case study here, I'm talking about the 30 interns that are in 3 locations for my department. Well, it's important, yes, they have a day job. They're working for 1 or 2 customers or on some projects, but it's also important, we found, to have 1 or 2 group projects where all the interns can work together on some kind of challenge. So, a great example here is on the left. We ran an experiment, and we did a joint command control and intelligence gathering experiment where one location, they were doing the planning of missions. Another location we were flying and executing the mission. So they were flying UAVs that based off of the directions that were being given to them by the planners. And the UAVs were collecting data. They were trying to find a target hidden in the woods. And the third location was an intelligence analyst cell where they were analyzing all that video and the information coming from the sensors and trying to pinpoint where the target was. And the 3 groups had to work closely together in order to solve the puzzle. Another example is we have them compete in our cybersecurity challenges themselves. So here's one of the intern teams. They reserved the conference room for the 20 hours of the competition, and they stocked it with Mountain Dew and Cheez-Its, and they were happy. So measures of success. Is this really working? Well, we define it in 3 areas, or at least we look at success in 3 areas. Obviously, the first area is in opportunity. I see our role in providing the opportunity for the students. It gives them the exposure they need to the engineering profession or the STEM professions, and it allows them to really explore earlier on. This is so important even at the high school level. Because if they can gain exposure to what the engineering environment is before they even enter college, now they can hit the ground running. Another area to measure success is obviously in assessments, and everyone has an aspect or perspective to being assessed, right? So the students I just mentioned, they have an opportunity to assess for themselves what a STEM career is, and is this something I'm interested in? The educators, obviously, when they see their students come back into the classroom, they can really easily see if that student is making the connections between theory and practice and getting those aha moments. And it's amazing the results that Paul has been sharing with us when they come back after working for a summer with an engineering company and going back into the engineering high school academy and seeing how that translates to their grades. Industry assessments, for us, a pipeline. We get a wonderful opportunity to be exposed to these students, to groom them, to help shape them, and we do that to look forward to our pipeline. And then obviously what's important here is the community, the parents, the community organizations that live around a school academy or a school presence. How do they perceive and how do they assess how this is working? And you see this when parents start volunteering more and more to come to the robotics functions or come to the functions at the school because their student is going home after working and they're writing code and they're bringing their laptops home and they're showing them what they're doing. And now when they go back to school and there's complementary school activities, it just naturally brings the family together. So let me tell you a little bit of metrics, right? Because obviously that's where it really matters. So this is just a small snapshot, right? I'm just using the data points that I've collected over 4 years. So this is a 4-year period of bringing in high school and college interns from, or the early years on, and over the 4-year period, we've had a really good turnout, right? So 75% are still with us, right? That means they came in, the high school ones, they may not have known that they wanted to pursue a career, or they didn't know anything about MITRE for sure. And they're still with us. They're still working. 5 of them have actually become full-time employees in the 4 years. They finished their college degree, and now they're full-time employees. The others are still working either as a high school intern or as a college. 6 students went off, and they're still pursuing STEM careers. So they moved out of the area. They've pursued other schools, or they've gone to medical fields, for example. That's still a STEM career. And then there's always the few, right? This is not only about trying to get the top students, but it's also trying to shape students who just don't know where to go yet. And you try. We bring those in too, and we give them the same jobs. We give them the same mentoring, and sometimes they choose. STEM isn't for them. So, and that's a good thing to learn early. It's if you can learn that in high school, that's even better. So. The result here is, right now, we're showing a 96% STEM sustainment, if you will. I mean, that's awesome. For that percentage of those students who are coming through the door to continue to pursue STEM, that's what it's all about for us. So, again, it's about that aha moment. That is where we see the power of, bringing industry and academia together and doing this, what we're calling that dual system of education. The career academies that Paul spoke about, I think, are going to become a model. He's now pursuing the cybersecurity educational program that I mentioned earlier, and he's trying to stamp cybersecurity high school programs across the country. I think and the industry's role there in helping to provide that sustainable footprint is key. So partnering between educators and industry. We're trying to do our part, and basically, the results, obviously there's a lot more to go, but I mean, I think right now the results are very promising. So we do have a track session this afternoon at 4 o'clock. We do plan to go a little bit deeper. Paul's going to go a little bit more into the academy, and we'll talk a little bit more about the metrics. So if anyone's interested, feel free to stop by there. But other than that, if you have any questions, or if you want to wait till later, that's fine.